Hi, good morning Year 11. This is a quick video to show you some of the basics and a few reminders about what to do in the exam this morning for English Literature Paper 1. First things first, a quick look at the paper. So this is the 2020 paper and yours is going to look very similar indeed. For literature you'll have an answer booklet as well that's pre-printed with lines. Okay, so there's your front page. Should know what's coming up. It's Macbeth and a 19th century novel which is Jekyll and Hyde. Alright, it's 1 hour and 45 minutes in total. So make sure that your timings are spot on. Take the right amount of time for each question, maybe write on the front of your exam booklet a reminder that you really want to be spending somewhere between 50 and 55 minutes per question, and that will give 50 minutes per question, will give you a tiny bit of time just to look over your answers. So you have seen these booklets before, but I'm going to open them up for you just to give you that little bit of confidence and a reminder of what to expect. So inside the booklet there's a contents page, and as you can see there are 6 options for Shakespeare that schools could have taught. We want you to answer on Macbeth. Alright, whatever you answer on will be marked, so please answer on the text you know the best, which is almost certainly going to be Macbeth. For the 19th century novel, again, the text you've been studying, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, they are both the first choices in both of the sections. Okay, so within the booklet itself, if you have a look with me now, you'll get your Macbeth extract. Here's the one from 2 years ago. You'll be told whereabouts in the play it comes from. All right, maybe worth highlighting, and then the question will follow. All right, it does also give you a tiny bit of context in case it's useful for you. So we're going to be looking at the Doctor and Gentleman watching Lady Macbeth sleepwalking here. And there's the extract, and we would encourage you to spend a good 5 minutes, maybe even 10, reading through, annotating with the question in mind. Do read the question first. Here it is, Lady Macbeth, highlighting key words, a female character who changes during the play. All right, so this is about Lady Macbeth's character arc, how she changes, where she starts from, and how she ends. And I'm going to look at ways of dealing with that in a moment once we've looked at the whole paper. So it says, starting with this moment in the play, explore how far you agree with this view. And you're likely to have either an agree or disagree, a statement of some description, and more times than not you will agree, or you might have a question that's more about a theme like fear, for example, or ambition. All right, and you're asked to look at Lady Macbeth in the extract and in the rest of the play. Okay, this question is worth 34 marks in total, so be aware that you're going to be judged a little bit on your spelling, punctuation and grammar, so do take care over spelling of at least the basics, including the names of the characters and the playwright. Alright, so when you finish your Macbeth, if you're doing Macbeth first, you could always do Jekyll and Hyde first. You need to make sure you skip over all of the other Shakespeare questions. You are not answering those, you are answering 2 questions. And then your second section is on Jekyll and Hyde. Again, you just answer the first question in section B. All right, so you are told where it comes from, chapter 10. And I believe that they will give you the name of the chapter as well, in case that is a help. Sometimes it will help pin down. And then it asks you it gives you the context of the chapter. So this is Jekyll describing his experience of taking the potion for the first time. Okay, so we know exactly what we're reading for. And then the question, before you start delving into the extract, we want to look at the question. So it's ideas about good and evil in this extract and in the whole of the novel. All right, and that question is worth 30 marks without extra marks for spelling, punctuation and grammar. That will then be it, because the rest of the questions in this booklet are about text that we've not studied and you're not expected to answer. So 50 minutes per question. Question 1 is on Macbeth. And question 2 is on Jekyll and Hyde. All right, and if you're well revised, you'll be confident. If you aren't, you still can use the extract to gain lots of marks. Right, so we want you to be writing about the whole of the text if you can. But if you're struggling or if your brain goes to sleep, remember this is the luxury of this paper, is you have 2 extracts to help you. So let's have a look at a typical Macbeth question and the sort of ways in which to approach it. So if we turn back to the Macbeth question that we were looking at, we are going to be writing here about Lady Macbeth as a character who changes during the play. All right, so within the extract, the first thing to do probably here is to highlight key ideas, key quotations about Lady Macbeth's character at the point in the play that we have the extract from. All right, so you might want to talk about the way she talks here, lots of questions, references to things she said already. You might want to look again at some of the specific things that she says. You marvel this with this starting, for example, again, going back to previous moments in the play where she was frustrated with her husband. She can't escape the smell of blood, again, a reference to earlier in the play. And even a good thing to mention here might be that the Doctor and the Gentlewoman are commenting directly on Lady Macbeth. So you might be able to talk about their role here. This disease is beyond my practice, for example, the Doctor says. So actually the Doctor's as much as giving up here at this point. He can't help. She needs more than a doctor. She needs a god or somebody connected to a god. So there's lots and lots of quotations, and your evidence needs to be from the extract. But what I suggest you do with a character question like this is you look at the character arc. All right, so you're looking at Lady Macbeth here, and we're looking at the way she starts off potentially in Act 1 as somebody who is brave and calculating and manipulative. And we can remember some of our key quotes from early on in the play. And then you might look towards the end or the beginning of Act 2 when Duncan has been killed, and you might say that then she becomes somebody who is a little bit more frantic, and that she is more hesitant. She's then excluded from lots of the things that Macbeth does. He goes off on a killing spree, doesn't he, really? And she is excluded from his plans. And then by the end of the play, she becomes delusional, suicidal, and I think lonely, isolated. So that's my plan for this essay, because I have these ideas, I can see the character arc. Macbeth's character arc, if Macbeth comes up, ideas about Macbeth's character could again be that he is reported as brave and heroic and rather bloodthirsty to start with. That bloodthirstiness continues throughout the play, but he's also hesitant and fearful after hearing the prophecies. He is somebody who is ambitious, but it doesn't sit as well with his state of mind. And then towards the end of the play, he becomes particularly kind of bloodthirsty again, reckless, and very much dependent on the witches for support. So again, a character question for Macbeth. You might want to look at the way in which the characters change over time. If you get a theme question, all you'll do is you'll apply the characters to those themes and how those themes change over time. That would be my top tip. Something you might do for both Jekyll and Hyde and Macbeth is look at symbols and motifs. All right, these are the ideas and themes that occur in the text multiple times. And the good and evil clearly are motifs in Jekyll and Hyde. So as we look through this, we might want to look, for example, at the way in which Stevenson describes ideas to do with perhaps size. Here, lost in stature. We could look at ideas connected to transformations. We might look at descriptions, for example, of weather. So as we're going through the text, try and explore the ideas that crop up time and time again in the novel. Ideas about good and evil. Some fabulous bits in this particular extract. And if you get a theme question like this, ideas about good and evil, we want to be able to plot again our way through the text. All right, so ideas about good and evil. And the extract is from chapter 10. Even though it says starting with this extract, you don't need to literally start with it in your answer. So I might look, for example, at chapter 1 and the way in which evil is presented through Hyde, trampled calmly, oxymoron, discuss how actually all it is a bumping into. It doesn't necessarily indicate evil per se. As we move through, different characters experience evil and good and evil in different ways. So Utterson's broken dreams, perhaps. Vague sense of deformity. Tapping into Victorian ideas about science and being a gentleman. We move through, almost certainly you'd want to write about the Carew murder and how Carew is described in angelic terms. And the murder of Carew is brutal and probably a bit over the top and exaggerated. And through the maid's eyes, his bones audibly shatter, for example. As we move through the text, you might get other ideas connected to good and evil, and then you come to your chapter 10 section and you'd make sure that you take as much as you possibly can from the extract. All right, so roughly your extract to whole should be somewhere between a third to a half of the essay. But I would start at the beginning and work through, unless you're very, very confident and you can range around. We all at the English department wish you massive, massive success. And please come and find us and let us know what comes up and how you've done in it. Good luck. I know that you'll do well.